Hey guys, this is James. I know I started a video blog and then I didn't really do a whole lot with it. So apologies for the delay. Terrible, terrible procrastinator. But yeah, so you guys have sent me some pretty awesome questions and I wanted to take a moment and at least answer some of them, and I'll definitely be doing future blogs. So definitely keep watching. But yeah, and in particular, Chris had a bunch of his students from his law and sexuality class ask me a bunch of questions, and I thought that was pretty rad. So I'm going to answer some of them. Let's see. Terry asks, what made you decide to get into porn? Was it a way of advertising the concept of FTM? A way of expressing that you're now happy with your body? Raising general awareness, perhaps? I decided to get into porn because it's something I really wanted to do for a long time. And the opportunity just happened upon me, and I kind of took it and ran with it and just decided to keep riding that train as far as it would go. And I've had a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of the reason why I wanted to do porn is because I am an exhibitionist. I really enjoy people watching me have sex. But also because I wanted to see more examples of people like me having sex. You know, over this past year, there's been a huge explosion in FTMs being in porn, and that's really fucking cool. Like, I think that's really rad to be able to have more diverse representations of transsexuality. So, yeah, one thing I wanted to do was to add my voice into that, into the wide range of bodies and experiences of trans men, and to be able to have that documented visually for people. It was also because, yeah, I mean, I like getting paid to do what I enjoy, and I was always told to, that I should do what I love. And the one thing I've always consistently been very good at and have enjoyed is sex, and so it just made a lot of sense for me to pursue porn. Yeah, so... And yes, I am a lot happier with my body now. But if you see some of my older stuff that I've shot, it was before I had surgery, and I think it's really important to be able to document that. I mean, most people probably don't feel the same way I do about it, but I think it's pretty rad to be able to document my transition in that way through seeing me have sex. It's a pretty rare opportunity, and I find it pretty exciting. So, yeah. And I guess along those same lines, let's see, Mark asks, is having a penis important to you in establishing your gender or sexuality? And how long have you considered yourself trans or queer? Well, I would say that having a penis is not important in what I think makes someone a man or a woman. I don't think genitals should define a person's being or sense of gender, like, exclusively. So, no, I don't think a penis is necessarily something that is important for me in my maleness. And it's not like having bottom surgery and surgically creating one is not something I foresee in my future. It's not really something I'm interested in. Lots of trans men are very happy with their results with bottom surgery, but for my needs and also financially, I don't really foresee that being a possibility for me. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I have, and I don't think it is contradictory to being a man. And I've considered myself, well, I guess I came out, like, started realizing I was not a heterosexual woman when I was about 12 or 13. And then, since then, my identity has just shifted many, many times. And I've identified as everything from a bicurious girl to a lesbian to a mostly straight man, a bisexual man, a gay man. Now I'm just queer. But yeah, I would say I've been very open about being queer from a very young age. I was out when I was about 15, and then I realized I was trans around the time I was 16, and then I started medically transitioning when I was around 18. Yeah. So, let's see. Chris, has changing genders strengthened your opinion on queer theory and queer porn? It's hard to say because I'm not cissexual or cisgendered, so I can't really say what my experience would have been if I were not trans, but I like to think that my trans experience has definitely given me a certain experience and outlook on life that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I wish more people would have that kind of intention around things. But Yeah, I mean, I think being trans has definitely affected the way I view queer theory and queer porn. Uh, Especially as someone who's trans, oftentimes trans people are automatically assumed to be queer, and that's not necessarily true. There are many, many straight, many heterosexual trans folks out there. I'm not one of them. But yeah, I think my trans experience, if anything, has just highlighted my queer identities. I don't know. Because being the kind of man that I am, I don't necessarily want to be the kind of white heterosexual male that takes what life gives him for granted. I think privilege is really important, and I think the way that I do maleness is queer in that I have a life experience unlike most men I've ever met, you know, even other trans men. And so I think my gender experience, my gendered journey and transition has been forcibly queered, even though I don't necessarily identify as genderqueer. But yeah. So I guess I would need to know more about maybe what you mean by my opinion being strengthened, but if anything, I think my queerness and my gender has a really hard time getting separated, but for a lot of people it is a very distinct thing. But mine kind of convolute and twist whether I want them to or not. Let's see, what else? Samantha. I'd like to know a little bit about the formal transition from female to male and things like passports, etc., use of public toilets, and how society and the law in the United States seem to deal with your identity. Documents can be pretty challenging, and I've recently been dealing with my own mess of having an expired driver's license from another state in the United States and trying to get another one in the current state that I live in. And all my different documents are in different names and genders and states, and it was just a big mess, but it's finally getting sorted out. But yeah, I imagine most people who are not trans never have to think about these things. But let's see. I've never really had much of a... I mean, once I was on hormones, using restrooms just wasn't a problem anymore. When I was more visibly gender variant looking to people, and of course, depending on what part of the country I'm in, where I'm going, I can still, get harassed. I mean, I often am read as a rather effeminate gay man, depending on where I am in the country, so I get really concerned about that more these days than I do about being bashed for being trans, in like a bathroom or something. But that's part of the privilege of passing as male now, is I don't really have to worry about that as much. I mean, especially where I live. Like, I live in a very liberal part of the country, and yeah, nobody really bats an eye at me. If anything, I get cruised in bathrooms now. But yeah, as far as, like, I've never had a passport, so I don't really know how the passport stuff works. But depending on where you were born in the United States and where you are currently living, like, it depends state by state what the laws are around being able to change your documents. There are a couple states I know off the top of my head, like Texas and like Virginia, I think. No, Ohio. If you have a birth certificate in those states, you can't ever change it. Like, they refuse. No matter how much surgery you have, how much therapy you've gone through, or whatever, it doesn't matter. They won't change it. There's some states that'll do like an abridged change, where they'll just like cross out your name, write the new name on top of it, and like, yeah, make a little like note that you're now male instead of female, or vice versa. Fortunately, I was born in a state that does change your birth certificate, so I'm currently also in the process of changing that over since I had surgery this year. Most places just require that you have a letter from a surgeon saying that you have had irreversible sex change surgery. It's kind of vague what that means. Oftentimes, trans men like myself can get away with just having chest surgery. Some places, and of course this all depends on who's behind the desk too that you're talking to. For example, when I was trying to get my driver's license changed in the state I lived in before now, in Georgia, the DMV just laughed at me. I brought my letter from my surgeon, and they just like passed it around to everyone and made a big scene, and I was very, very, very angry. But I was just like, fuck it, and I just walked out and decided I'd change it in California, where people have their trans shit together a little bit more. Unfortunately, that was a pretty mild case. I'm sure. I mean, there's like a case of a trans woman in California, and in fact in San Francisco, trying to change her documents, and one of the DMV employees like took her information and started sending her like harassing letters and stuff. So, yeah, document changes can be a nightmare. Absolutely, unfortunately. But yeah, so if you, I guess you have more like specific questions about that, I can expand upon it. And then another mark, maybe the same mark, not sure. How do you feel you are viewed by people? What hurdles have you had to jump to get to where you are? I touched on that a little bit. I mean, the biggest thing for me was like financial stuff, you know, dealing with family. Fortunately, I had a pretty supportive friendship group when I was coming out as trans. In high school, I didn't really have much of a support network, which is unfortunate. And I think that's why I think it's rad that people are making that it gets better campaign, and I think it's really important that queer people and trans people like go back to their high schools and like speak to kids about like how, you know, you shouldn't kill yourself, you know. But yeah, specific things I've had to deal with is yeah, you know, like getting, you know, having surgery, having the money for that, document changes, you know, harassment from, you know, security personnel, like at an airport, for example, where I'm not looking like what my documents say I'm supposed to look like, kind of thing. So, especially in, you know, Bush administration, like it's fucking scary, you know, like yeah. But yeah, okay, let's see. And one final question from Chris. Do you think queer porn will expand to be a much more widely consumed than it is today? As such, do you consider yourself a slutty porn pioneer? Well, I can only hope that I'm a slutty porn pioneer, but I will say that it's a really exciting time to be in porn, and especially queer porn, and just seeing it expand. And I think, you know, the porn industry has just had a lot of the same kind of shit for years and years and years, and people are excited about things that are different. And you know, some people get some concerned about exploitation of queer porn, but, you know, I think it's really cool to be able to expose people to different ways of having sex, whether they're straight or gay or queer or some variation therein. I can only hope that it'll continue to be expanded and more widely consumed, but yet not lose its integrity. That is an important thing. But yeah, you know, I can only hope that people will be discussing this in their classes and writing papers about it, and I'm really excited to have like y'all be writing me these questions. So thank you, and again, if you have more things you want me to talk about in detail, I'm happy to do that. So, alright, until next time.